It's Friday, and I'm back with the next in our Fanzine Friday series. Today we're taking a look at Olympus number 2. Please stick around. I'm AZ Mountaineer. This is our channel, Old School Rules, where we celebrate the community of old school gamers and grognards who like classic RPGs, miniatures, magazines, and everything that goes with it. Each week on the Fanzine Friday series, I take a fanzine from my collection off the shelf for a closer look. Today, from 1982, this is Olympus number 2. Hope you enjoy the video. So we continue this look at the fanzine that is it's called Olympus. It was produced, I think, by a gaming group, judging from the looks of it, over in Northbrook, Illinois. It's this sort of more of a square size. I think that's the result of taking legal size paper and folding it in half. But heavy stock cover, sort of a yellowish orange color, and paper folded in half, a couple of staples down through the middle. Pardon me. These don't have a particular date, but they say copyright 1982, and the next one I think says it's November-December version of 1982, and they also say it's a bi-monthly publication. If that's correct, this would be the fall, September-October time frame for this one. Really enjoying these. They have a great sort of, amateur vibe to them. So first, let's take a look at the cover art. This is Bruce Davis. I think they say here he was incorrectly identified as Bruce Smith in the last issue. I really love this cover. The dragon, I'm going to say it's a dragon here. I think it's just fantastic drawing. I mean, I think the perspective on that is fantastic. It's coming right at you. That's like, for me, that's 5 stars. And then you got this fighter in the front. He's not, the art's not quite as good there, but the action is awesome. He's got his little tiny shield, which is, deflecting the fire that he would otherwise be getting melted by as he gets ready with his sword hand, which is a little bit off the edge, to come in and fight this thing. Very dynamic, very dramatic cover, and I like it quite a lot. Again, the price is right there. It's $1.50 to buy it. In terms of, they've got a table of contents of their own, but here's mine. They've got the editorial on page 3. Enchanting words, which are new spells. I think 1 cleric, the rest are magic users. Arcane items, new magic items. And our infinite wisdom, which is fiction. The terror of black past, that's the adventure. Familiars, like magic user familiars. Menacing monsters, new monsters. And Wind Runner, which is a comic, which is new this time. And that comic is by Steve Vihon. In terms of our contributors, it seems like Royce Kallerud maybe has a more prominent role. I said last time it looked like Steve Breeser did, but anyway, those two guys clearly are the driving force here. Bruce Davis, again, provides cover art. Some of the articles, new items and so forth. Alex Schnell and David Liscomb contribute to that. Like I mentioned, Steve Vihon has the comic at the very end, and then also art from Scott Sackett and Heath Yonaites. Here's their editorial. It's very typical kind of editorial, talking to people about the contributions different people have made and thanking them. And he mentions that Dale Staley did something that kept him from having to raise the price to $2. He doesn't say if that was helping keep the cost down or maybe finding advertisers to offset the cost of the fanzine. Thanks other people for their contributions and encourages others who are out there reading that they should be contributing as well. And as they often do, they mention, look, a lot of our materials AD&D because that's what we're getting, but we're open to including other things if people want to see that. And then he walks through sort of what's going to be in this issue and tells people how good he thinks it's going to be. And this one's signed by Royce rather than Stephen. So here are our new magic users and 1 cleric spells. Suspension allows you to suspend an object in sort of midair. And so you could take something and throw it and then cause it within, I think, 20 feet of the magic user. He can stop it, and it'll just hold there for the duration of the spell. It can't be particularly heavy, no more than 15 pounds, and it can hold up to 1,000 pounds. So the thing I thought about that would be good with this is if you're trying to get across a pit or a chasm or something, right? You could take a grappling hook, throw it, and have it just basically hold itself out in the air for the party to use if you couldn't hook it on something. I'm sure there's other clever uses for that. I love these kind of clever use type spells that encourage the party to be thoughtful and creative in how they solve problems. The next one is kind of neat. That first one's level 2. This is level 3. It's probably too high level, frankly. It's called Hotspot, and it allows you to create any shape you desire, sort of a warm spot. And so if you walk through it, you would just sort of feel some heat, 80 to 120 degrees. I think the idea is it can also be used to mess up people's infravision, right? So you could make like a creature, a humanoid shape or whatever, appear, and someone would see that with infravision and think it was real until they got to it, and then it wouldn't be there. It has a reverse, which is cold spot, that you could use as well. Then there's a cleric spell, a third level called Purify Air. It could be used to counter the effects of any type of noxious gas, including other spells or monster attacks as well. And there's a reverse of that called Putrefy Air that basically has the effect of a stinking cloud spell. Fifth level spell called Altrindar's Dancing Sword. Fifth level magic user spell. You cast it on a sword, and then it will dance like a sword of dancing for the duration of the spell, which is 1 round per level of the spellcaster. And this last one, probably my favorite, is called Branton's Magic Bow. It's level 2. Maybe that's too low. Maybe it should be level 3 or 4. I don't know. But anyway, maybe that's okay. But anyway, the casting spell allows a shadowy bow to appear in the magic user's hands, which the magic user can then use to attack with proficiency. No other bonuses. And it says there's a 40% chance that any arrow that's fired from the bow will just vanish, and you have to have, in their version of the spell, it just gives you the bow, you have to carry the arrows. I would probably make it fire sort of magical arrows as well. I'd make the magic user roll to hit, but maybe give it like an enchantment of a +1 arrow or something like that, so it's a slightly better chance of hitting. Then we have, anyway, so I liked it. Good spell. Arcane items. Caleb's Mystical Dust. It's a silvery dust. It says often found in a silken pouch and bound by a golden chain. They give some background about this magic user named Caleb, who created it, but then was being overrun by evil creatures, and so he cast some type of a curse on all of his dust that was in his laboratory, that any evil creature that has it will be compelled to fight and protect the dust with its life. Other people aren't affected, other alignments aren't affected by that curse. You sprinkle the dust on a person or a creature, and it turns them into a clay statue, which the person can turn back into regular form at will just by wanting to do it. But otherwise, it would allow you to make this little statue. I'm assuming it's like a clay golem, and it can move as opposed to just becoming a figurine. That's not really clear. I guess I figure the person who's turned into a little clay figure should be allowed to move, because that's going to be more interesting in my view than just having you become small and get stuck in somebody's pocket. Then the second item is awesome. Arrows of the Rust Monster Ruins. And these are +3 to hit, and when they have these arrowheads that are sort of reddish rust color, and when they hit any type of metal like another character's armor, assuming it's not leather, right? Assuming it's metal, it has the effect of a rust monster hitting it. I think that's fantastic. In our Infinite Wisdom, this is fiction, and it's just a little story about these people who are playing D&D, and somebody gets into this metaphysical discussion about the infinite nature of the universe, and if there's an infinite universe, that means there's an infinite number of worlds, and if there's an infinite number of worlds, that means there's different type of worlds, like including maybe a world that if you just think about it, you would go there, and then they go there, and then as you might imagine, that kind of, as they call it, unlimited wishes turns out to be not such a good idea after all. Stephen Breeser has our adventure. It's in my view, it's just okay. I think it's pretty cohesive, so I like that about it. Let me show you the map. Okay, here's our map, and so there's this rumor, nobody's able to survive going through this pass. Someone's moved in there that's causing the merchants not to be able to go through, and they ask you to sort of clean it out. The first part's pretty good. You come into the pass, and you're going to get ambushed if you're not being thoughtful and looking around and seeing these little caves that are up above you in the pass. You've got some good ideas there, different types of creatures that sort of gang up on you and attack you as you come in. On the left-hand side, you've got basically the lair of the humanoid demi-humans who are attacking, and then there's these germalanes who have, I guess, aligned with them, and then they've got their little lair over here on the right. Like I said, I think it's well thought out and very cohesive. All makes perfect sense. Just wasn't, I guess, in my view, particularly interesting, but don't mean to be harsh on it. It's a good little adventure. It's probably really short, like too short to even take up an entire evening's gaming session. So, but you could put it in there on your way to get somewhere, maybe, right? Maybe you take away the sudden problem with the merchants and you just basically have your characters having to get through here, and maybe this is just a small encounter on the way. And in that respect, probably it's pretty good. All right, so interestingly, it's not the adventure, it's this article on familiars that takes up the majority of the fanzine this time. Royce has really gone all out and talks about, the role of familiars. Most Magic users, he says, have them. That wasn't always my experience. But he's got a new chart he wants folks to use. He's got some artwork here. See this guy's summoning. He's got all these different types of creatures. And here's his chart, which is greatly expanded from what's in the monster manual. And his concept is the higher your level when you decide to cast an attractive familiar, then the more likely it is you're going to get some type of a special familiar. And so as you see here, the chart, the D100 roll you're going to make adjusts. He gives you little stats and what the bonuses are for the familiars that aren't in the monster manual. And every one of them gives you some type of extra special ability, like a badger helps you turn berserk if you're in a life and death situation. Bats help you avoid running into things in the dark. Carrier pigeons help you find your way home. Cats, night vision and better chance of listening. Crows, hawks, excellent vision. Owls, night vision. Very, very, very good job here of thinking about the animal and the type of thing to give the Magic user as sort of their bonus. And then he adds these special familiars at the bottom. He says, there were a few in the original spell, but he adds the Blink Dog, the Displacer Beast, Fire Drake, Hellhound, Hellcat, and Horfox and Pixie. And those are particularly good, familiars to have. They give you slightly better ability. I'm not convinced the Displacer Beast is really appropriate. Seems like it's probably too powerful and a little too wild of a creature to think would be your familiar. Probably the same thing for a few of these, but in any event, it's a good article. It's well done. And if you want to have more options for your familiars in your campaign, especially if that's something your character's really into, I think it's a pretty good article. And again, good other opportunities. Really did a great job with the regular sort of animals, thinking through what kind of bonuses to give you. They're very well balanced, not over the top. Menacing monsters and curious creatures. He only has one, and it's the Plantora, which looks a lot like a turtle, except that the shell is a whitish pearl color, and then the tail has this sort of bludgeoning spiked, tail component, and that what they use for defense. He talks about that you can get on top of them on their shell, and then of course their tail can't hit you, they can't really attack you, and people sometimes would get them as young and train them to be ridden. And I think that would be a fun way to introduce them, right? Maybe some other type of creature is riding on those in your campaign. Here is the feedback results from the first issue, which I think they only got 8 responses to, what people liked the most, some of the magic items in the discussion of the Thieves Guild, new monster, and it goes down through there. And then he's got a very similar survey he wants people to fill out for this one as well. Here's the comic, and the art is not my favorite style, and so sometimes I had a hard time following who he was drawing in some of these things, if it was the protagonist or somebody else. But basically, it's this guy starts off, he finds a time machine, puts on his nicer clothes, goes into the time machine, gets transported to 1815, ends up, I think we're going to say, in England, because he's in the Queen's garden, and finds out that the rightful heir and princess is being held in a dungeon, and then the lady who's on the throne is not the rightful ruler. And so he says he's got a quest to fulfill, and it just starts with him trying to fight his way past the bad guys. Here's the back cover. always been partial to the Flying Buffalo out in Scottsdale, Arizona, and they took up a full page ad in here for Heroic Fantasy, their play-by-mail game. And if you don't know that much about Flying Buffalo, they did a lot of play-by-mail before they got into published role-playing games. Like, they're famously known because they helped with Tunnels and Trolls, and also they had all the Grimm's Tooth Traps booklets that were popular back in the early 80s. And this is the rear cover. It's Enterprise Concepts, Inc. and their Star Trek, again, play-by-mail game. So that is it for Olympus number 2, the second of, I think, 5. Yeah, I've talked to a couple other people who collect fanzines, and so far I haven't been able to figure out if there is anything more than 5. So for today, we're gonna settle on the idea maybe I have them all, and we'll cover those over the next few weeks. Hope you guys are enjoying this series. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope that you're subscribed. If you've got any friends who like this type of content, please send them our way, and hopefully they will be subscribers as well. Hope you all have a great Friday, great weekend. Until next time, my friends, keep rolling 20s.